Hey everyone, welcome to Life in Full Send, Athletes Reimagined, the podcast where we discuss the experience of redefining life after being an athlete. I'm your host, Liz Hall, an athlete integration specialist and your teammate in navigating that big question, what comes after sports? Each week I sit down with former athletes who have faced that very question and shared how they navigated the transition. Quickly, be sure to subscribe and share the pod so you can catch all the stories. This week's episode, we are heading to my hometown of Belleville, Michigan. Growing up, we had a few families around town that were known for athletics. The Jenkins brothers stand out. They both played in the NFL for years. And my guest today, Josh Samarco, was part of that athletic family. An All-American basketball player who went on to play at the University of Pikeville and earn the Hall of Fame status there. Now serving in a ministry and the creator of a clothing line called Merch That Matters. We talk about the experience in his household that happened that he had to hide away while he was performing on the court. And it was another example. I'm getting goosebumps as I talk about it. It's another example of how a struggle is so hidden, because I would walk the hallways with Josh. I would have classes with Josh, and I never knew that he was struggling. And just knowing that he was keeping it inside makes me so grateful to share his story today. Let's check it out.
I had a lot more for myself beyond the game of basketball. There's a big fear as I was coming out of college and many of my peers. One day we have to wake up and we're not known as a basketball player anymore. And so I've seen guys like try so hard to extend their careers because they didn't think there was something else more out there. Fortunately for me, I've always loved writing since a very young age. So writing had picked up in college and it picked up afterwards. And so what surprised me was that I had a lot more to give beyond just being known as Josh the athlete, Scotty the basketball player. And I was like, I remember thinking to myself, this probably had to be like 2012, 13 when I was finally saying I'm done, that I can't wait to the day when somebody like greets me and sees me, as Josh Samarco, and not Josh, the Hall of Famer, Josh, the basketball player. But it took a while to get there, but I just wanted to be known for me, like a person who loves people, a person who loves to write, loves family, loves to travel. What surprised me was like how long it actually took for people to just see me as me. That was a big surprise, and not being seen as that.
I'm curious of the correlation between when you stopped identifying and healed that and said, no, there's more. I mean, I hear you were anchored in writing. I wonder if part of you hung on to it and so people just respond accordingly. How many times did you identify yourself as the basketball player? Or when did you start saying, I'm this, and introducing yourself as something different? And then therefore a new environment expanded and was created that now saw you as a writer or a pastor, for instance.
God gave me opportunities to join a local church ministry during the time I was transitioning out. So to a degree, it felt like it went from one label to the next. So then I become no longer the basketball player. Now I'm the pastor, or now I'm the speaker. And it's still this journey of like, no, no, no. I don't want to be known as these labels, these identifiers. That's just the human mind and how we view people. So with the basketball thing, I mean, I think it wasn't too long because I began to teach at a community college. I began to pastor. I began to mentor. I began to become a basketball coach. So I was so active and involved and participating and just serving in serving leadership that this basketball identity was like, okay, that's cool that people still view me that way, but I don't view myself that way anymore. And I believe it's because I had all of these other phenomenal outlets in my life. And I think some people, the athlete, they don't know what's next. They don't know like what am I going to be validated for, or what would I get praised for, because I just got praised here for 20 plus years. So it may take them a lot longer to no longer be recognized.
That's the journey too, is self-validating, no longer requiring recognition or acknowledgement from anything external for us to feel enough as is and worthy as is. It's masterful living.
We are human beings first. And I think in the world of athletics, we're athletes first. And everything is built around this your athletic abilities, your athletic gifts and talents. I think at the human level, people want to be human. They want to be recognized for their character, for their integrity, for their, human abilities. The sports world, and for me, like the basketball, was an accessory. It was a gift. It gave me opportunity. But I can tell myself that now. But in the moment, it's like this was my opportunity to get out of a rough environment, to be the first in my family to go to college, to survive, to live, to eat, to get money, through the school, to get an education. For a lot of people who have similar backgrounds to me and my story, is like this. It is it. And I feel like some of it is like when you believe it is it. What are the other tools that young people need to say, yes, this is it for you, but there's also a lot of it over here too. Let's find out what that is. Let's unpack what that is. And so I think coaches, um, athletic directors, they have this ability if they are aware enough, and I know this is evolving and growing, to see beyond a player's ability and look into their mental health aspect, right? And now, like our universities and colleges, there's wellness offices built, there's mental health counseling built. And I celebrate that. For those of us who are beyond the game now, and the game has stopped as far as us playing, we didn't have those tools back then. And so the encouragement is like, no matter what you think, where you think you are and what you've been through, just go start an initial session. Whether that's processing, feeling anxious before a game, or you had a bad game, you don't know how to go talk to a counselor who have went to school, who have studied, spent years on this, and allow them to process. It's good to process with friends and to go on the internet and let some things out sometimes. But what if you like scale back and went behind the scenes and talked to someone that know exactly what they're talking about? They can unpack the brain health. They can unpack like what you're going through in the moment and give you language and tools to do your own work to pursue the help that you need. Like that is the conversation that we need to continue to have for all athletes to begin to tap into those resources. And I believe 1,000% it can change a young person's life.
Because we're not taught how to regulate emotions. We're not taught that. And so we have tools now for others not to fix us, not to diagnose us. Because I think a lot of athletes, the ego would say, well, they're going to tell me something's wrong with me. And it's no, a great therapist is simply there to hold space for you to see it. It's to become aware of it, for you to hear what's going on. And it does help to put language to it, because I think so often when we're in heavy feelings, so often we can't even identify the feeling we're feeling. And they're complex because humans are complex. And so there's multiple layers of feelings, and so we spin, and then again, out of the ego, when we operate out of this fear, we'll go to people that are just going to reiterate what we already think, which could spiral us deeper, okay? Or somebody that's going to challenge us, and then that's going to make us mad. So seeking out resources that are available to you, we don't have a lack of resources today. We have a lack of resourcefulness. This is the part where we have to say, I'm responsible to go that first time. I'm responsible. It's scary. Yes. I'm not minimizing this. Anything new is scary. Anything that you've been raised to think is negative. There are generational narratives saying that if you go to a therapist, you're crazy. Our parents' generation wouldn't get hired because it was on their background that they went and saw a therapist, and then that was deemed crazy. And things have changed. And so we're changing, again, generational narratives. This is the evolution. This is the evolution.
Said in my household, maybe you heard it in your household or from other friends, was what happens in this house stays in this house. And that is you think about curses, and I have a spiritual background, and oftentimes Christians get caught up on cussing, and I'm like, what about the cursing? There's a huge difference. What stays in this house, what happens in this house stays in this house is a curse. Especially when dysfunction happens, when abuse happens emotionally, physically, spiritually, and you can't tell anybody. Like, I can't go tell my school counselor what happened last night or this morning before school. Imagine the weight that young person holds. So you got to navigate and put on a mask and say everything's okay. So I go to first hour. I just want to put my head down. My teacher comes over. Hey, you haven't turned in these assignments in I don't know how long. Don't check on me. Why are you not doing your work? Let me call down in the office. Let me kick you out of class. What did that young person need? They needed a hand on their shoulder. You seem like you're going through something today. You want to step out and have a private conversation. Like, let's have that private conversation and then build the trust, build the rapport, and hopefully over time, this young person can open up to gain the freedom from the curses that have been projected over their life by their own family members or peers. And so I think that's the heaviness of when you peel back the layers of human beings that are in athletics on a surface level. I mean, that for me, that is what I needed to begin to unravel and heal, right? When I look back at certain moments of my athletic career, I could have gone above and beyond what I even did, and God allowed me to accomplish a lot, even with all the trauma and survival methods that I was in. If I go back and I had those tools or those people helping me to peel back, I don't know who I would have been, right? This is part of my journey, but in those moments, though, it's like, here is the evolution that we can have for young people when we begin to slow down, help them unpack, truly get to know them, and then they will become a more world-class athlete when you marry the mental health and the conversations and the care that is needed.
I started to feel that so heavy. I want to address something quickly too. If the narrative is it doesn't leave this house, then we start to take our own internal struggles and say it doesn't leave this house. We start to treat ourselves as a house that has to keep it all in. Even with ourselves, when we know something's wrong, and it feels like that was something happening where your spirit knew what was happening wasn't okay. Your spirit knew that you needed to talk about it and receive something, whether that's just a listening ear, holding space for you to say this is what's happening and it's not okay. Josh, I can't thank you enough for your vulnerability and heart in sharing your story. You're so special to me, and you make our hometown so proud. If this episode inspired you, please share it with a fellow athlete or a friend navigating their next chapter, because we're all just navigating as we go. Next week, we have a powerhouse guest who played college basketball at the University of Michigan, and she established herself as a thought leader in the branding world, working with campaigns like Nike, the NBA, and Brooklyn Nets rebrand, and many more. Until next time, please remember, the game ends, but your story doesn't. Keep living life in full send.